Hello, my kindred friend. Have you ever felt exhausted from constantly struggling to arrange everything in your life to be perfect? From your own health to the future of your children and grandchildren, we strain to hold on because we fear that if we let go, everything will collapse. Yet, dear friend, it is this very effort to control that is the source of all anxiety. Understand this. Anxiety is like a cage woven from ghosts. It looks solid and terrifying, but in truth, it has no substance. It only exists, as long as you try to use your will to resist life. True freedom does not come when you have finished arranging all the affairs of the world, but when you have the courage to step aside and trust in the divine rhythm of existence. Tonight, I invite you to step out of that cage of ghosts through 7 profound lessons from the Buddha. Together, we will learn how to release control, not to become indifferent, but to find true liberation in every breath. Lesson 1. Fear is a seed. Observe your mind as a talented novelist who carries a heart full of worries. We often weave thousands of scenarios about disasters that have never happened, then cast ourselves as the lead in those tragedies. In the wisdom of mindfulness, fear is not just an emotion. It acts as a distorted lens, making a dry branch look like a fierce snake in your eyes. Look at our reality. There are friends in their twilight years who live in invisible anxiety about financial lack or declining health. That lens of fear makes them see every expense as a burden and every minor bodily sign as a seed of catastrophe. They live in poverty and sickness, even when their accounts are sufficient and their bodies are stable. In family relationships, the fear of being forgotten by children often makes us overly sensitive, controlling, or resentful. Ironically, the very act of straining to hold on tightly creates a suffocating atmosphere, pushing loved ones away and turning your fear of loneliness into a living reality. The Buddha taught that our mind is like fertile, accommodating soil. This soil does not distinguish between right and wrong. It will silently nourish whatever seed you sow. Fear, when watered by daily speculation, begins to take deep root in your nervous system and directs all your behavior. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. And when you are the embodiment of anxiety, you are unintentionally creating a world full of corresponding instability. Therefore, healing is not about trying to destroy fear, but identifying it as an uninvited guest, trying to write dark chapters in your head. Tonight, before closing your eyes, gently ask your heart, is the seed I am watering right now something I want to see bloom tomorrow? When you stop sowing seeds in the darkness of speculation, your reality finally has a chance to be illuminated by serenity. Lesson 2. The power of entrustment. Throughout life, we are often taught that strength means holding on, being resilient, and never letting go. We assume that letting go is a sign of weakness or surrendering to fate. However, kindred friend, the wisdom of mindfulness invites you to see another definition of true strength, the courage to entrust yourself to the flow of life. Imagine standing before a cool stream and scooping a handful of water in your palm. A strange instinct urges you to squeeze tightly to keep that water. But look closely. The more you grip the water, the faster it vanishes through the gaps of your fingers. Only when you have the courage to open your palm wide, keeping it flat and receptive, will the water stay and nourish you. Life is the same. Excessive control does not bring safety, it only brings exhaustion. In the philosophy of karma, life is inherently a web of interconnected causes and conditions. Trying to use personal will to turn everything your way is like a traveler trying to push back a waterfall. Instead of wasting energy fighting, true strength lies in identifying the direction of the river of karma and leaning into it. I want to tell you about a Zen master sitting in a small boat during a great storm. He did not scream for the waves to stop, nor did he drop the oars in despair. He simply adjusted the sail to follow the wind. He understood that the water threatening to sink the boat was the same water supporting it. Entrustment is not blindly leaving your life to fate, but the clarity to know there are things we need to work for, and there are things we need the sincerity to stop interfering with through the ego. When you stop clamping down on your life, you will be amazed to realize the moment you let go, the whole world begins to support you in the most miraculous way. Lesson 3. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow, but life is only in this moment. Stay silent for a moment to feel your breath right now. Do you notice that our mind has a strange habit? It is like a traveler who never stops to rest. Even while your body sits still in a quiet room, your mind may have run miles away, busy arranging things for next week or trembling with fear about an event next year. In Buddhist wisdom, anxiety is actually just a projection. It is when your consciousness draws up a draft of disasters that do not yet exist, then forces your body to suffer real pain at this very moment. We are tired not because of what is happening, but because we are living too much in a house that hasn't been built, the future. Kindred friend, ask your heart, right now, is my breath still there? Is my heart still beating rhythmically? Is the sky out there still sheltering me with tolerance? If the answer is yes, it means you are still safe. All anxiety is actually just clouds passing across the sky of your essence. They look massive and gray, but in truth, they have no roots and no substance. Healing begins when you courageously summon your mind back to your body. Consider the present moment as your true home. Whenever you feel restless, take a deep breath and softly say, I have arrived. I am here. When you bring your attention back to the weight of your feet on the ground or the warmth of the teacup in your palm, you are gently cutting off the fuel of anxiety. Remember, tomorrow will take care of itself using the causes and conditions it has. Your job right now is not to solve the ghosts of the future, but to nourish composure in the present breath. For only when you are truly present here do you have enough strength and wisdom to face whatever comes. Peace is not when the future is guaranteed, but when you find an anchor amidst the fluctuating flow of the present. Lesson 4. Identifying imaginary fears. Kindred friend, let's look at our minds with entirely new eyes. Consider it a gifted novelist who carries a heart full of worries. This writer is never satisfied with the simple details of the present. He is always obsessed with weaving, exaggerating, and turning the smallest anxieties into grand, tragic chapters, then forcing us to play the lead in those mournful stories. Have you ever felt your shoulders grow heavy even when you are sitting still? That is because we are unintentionally carrying a spiritual backpack full of invisible stones. Each stone is named with a "what if?" question. What if my health suddenly takes a turn for the worse? What if my children encounter trouble and I can't help? What if this loneliness lasts forever? In truth, those stones have no substance. They are molded entirely from the material of imagination. We are exhausting ourselves with the weight of hypotheses. In the wisdom of mindfulness, there is a truth that the novelist within you often hides. Most of the fiercest storms you ever lost sleep worrying about. In reality, never visited the harbor of your life. We suffer more from the stories we tell ourselves than from what is actually happening. As a Zen master once likened, we fear the darkness of the cave, but when we light a torch, we see the walls were only covered in our own drawings. Happiness in any circumstance begins when you courageously close that novel. Do not believe everything the mind draws. Every time a fear rises, gently ask the writer in your head, is this reality, or is this just a story? When you separate existing truth from the fiction of anxiety, you will feel the backpack on your shoulders lighten. Allow yourself to live in the real world, even if it is imperfect, rather than being imprisoned in a dark script of your own making. Tonight, let those invisible stones fall to the ground, and let your soul wander freely in the truth of this moment. Lesson 5. When control blocks trust. Imagine you are sitting on a bus traveling across beautiful mountain roads in the sunset. It should be a moment of enjoyment and admiration, but you are constantly worried. Your hands keep reaching forward, trying to grasp the steering wheel, even though you are not the driver. You are tense at every curve. You fear every pothole, And that desire to control has turned a journey meant to be full of grace into a mental torture. We often walk the path of life with the mindset of an over-anxious driver. We want to control every tiny detail in our children's lives, arrange every result of our work, and want our bodies to operate exactly as we wish every day. However, in the wisdom of the Buddha, there is a truth that our controlling ego often finds hard to accept. You cannot both strain to grip the wheel and trust that the road is supporting your steps. When you try to control everything, you are unintentionally closing the door to trust and entrustment. Control is actually another form of attachment. We cling to a single script that we think is right, and when life operates differently, we feel betrayed. But the laws of nature are inherently tolerant and miraculous. Look at how a seed grows in the earth. The farmer sows the seed, waters it, and then he must. Trust is not waiting for a miracle, but understanding that there is a greater wisdom operating the flow of all things. When you loosen the hands that are gripping the wheel, you do not lose safety. On the contrary, that is when you begin to feel the support of the road beneath your feet. Happiness in any circumstance begins when you dare to believe. Even when things do not go your way, they are still happening in the best way for the growth of your soul. Tonight, try letting go of those tired hands and let life have the right to lead you. Lesson 6. Letting go is expanding. Do not shrink your life. Do you ever recognize your feeling when anxiety takes over? Observe closely. At that moment, the entire vast world outside suddenly seems to shrink until it is the size of a needle's eye. Your mind slams all windows shut, your breath constricts, and your vision focuses only on a single black dot of trouble. In the Buddha's wisdom, anxiety is actually a state of spiritual contraction. The more we worry, the more we lock ourselves into a suffocating and narrow space. Kindred friend, contemplate the lesson of the handful of salt and the river taught by the Blessed One. If you put a handful of salt into a small cup of water, that water will become salty and undrinkable. But if you drop that same salt into a vast river, the saltiness will vanish completely and the water remains pure. That salt represents the worries and fluctuations of life, while the cup or the river represents the capacity of your consciousness. When you try to control and arrange everything to your liking, you are turning your mind into a narrow cup. You find life bitter because just a little turbulence is enough to shake you. However, letting go is the journey of loosening the binding ropes so your consciousness expands like a river, or further, like a vast ocean. Do not shrink your life by living only within dark assumptions. At this age, you should be the one enjoying the most vibrant harvest of experience, not a prisoner self-confined within walls of fear. Letting go is not losing what you have. It is allowing your contracting heart to expand, to receive the entire sky of freedom. Remember this truth. Anxiety does not protect you from tomorrow's storms. It only takes away all your oxygen today. Tonight, try opening your palms, opening your chest, and opening your soul. Let those worries dissolve into the immensity of the universe, for you deserve to breathe in the largest and most serene space. Lesson 7. Life flows naturally when you step aside. Imagine standing before a garden in the brilliant golden light of early morning. Have you ever quietly watched a bud shyly blooming? Or a green sprout gently reaching out from the dark earth? You will realize a simple yet shocking truth: that bud does not need your help or any command from you to bloom brilliantly. That sprout does not need you to pull it up to grow faster. All life has its own internal wisdom and sacred rhythm. Kindred friend, the greatest wisdom I want to give you tonight is the art of non-interference, also known as Wu-Wei. For so many years, we have mistakenly believed we are the architect who must strain to build every brick of life, the soldier who must guard every fluctuation of our loved ones. However, Buddhist wisdom reminds us, life does not need you to make it happen, because life is already happening. Our exhaustion often comes from trying to interfere with processes that belong to nature, and causes and conditions. I invite you to contemplate the metaphor of the butterfly. If you tirelessly chase to catch a butterfly, it will only fly further away, and you will only receive exhaustion. But if you choose to sit still, relaxed, and care for the garden of your soul until it is green and cool, that very butterfly will leisurely fly to you and perch gently on your shoulder. Happiness and healing work by the same law. They are not things to be hunted, but the result of creating a space quiet enough for them to find their way back. Look back at your life's flow as a stream blocked by boulders named anxiety, control, and craving. Healing is not using force to push the water to flow faster, but gently bending down to pick each of those stones out of the stream bed. When the obstacle of the ego is removed, the river of life will naturally find its path and flow fully and powerfully. And a miracle will appear when you courageously step aside, the emergence of synchronous grace. Have you ever noticed when you stop struggling, suddenly a friend you need to meet appears, a necessary resource finds its way to you, or a family knot suddenly unties itself? That is not a coincidence. That is when the universe and causes and conditions are allowed to operate without being hindered by the rigidity of personal will. Applying this lesson to life now means, every time you find yourself tensing your shoulders to manage, whisper to yourself, I allow life to operate itself. Do your best with devotion, then step aside to receive the results with gratitude. You do not need to carry this whole world on your shoulders. Return the power of guidance to the great flow of life. For, my dear friend, peace does not come when you have finished arranging all the affairs of life. It comes when you no longer want to arrange this world. Tonight, let yourself truly rest in that sacred entrustment. You have done enough. Now, let life take care of you. Kindred friend, we have traveled together through 7 paths of wisdom to understand that the peace you have always sought has never been at the end of controlling efforts. It does not lie in finishing the arrangements of the world, but exists at the very moment you courageously open your palms to entrust yourself to the flow of life. After all, I hope you etch this sacred truth. You do not have the task of straining to carry the universe on your shoulders. You only need to do your best with devotion, then step aside to receive all conditions with gratitude. When you stop clamping down on your life, that is when life begins to support and soothe you most completely. Before we temporarily part to enter the silence of tonight, I want to gift you a mantra to carry throughout the coming journey. Happiness does not lie in your ability to control the world. It lies in no longer letting the world control your mind. If this conversation has brought you even a little relief, I invite you to continue the journey of mindfulness by clicking the subscribe button. Leave a message in the comments about the lesson that made your heart feel most at ease right now. That is the first seed of peace you sow for yourself and the community. Wishing you a life of leisure, a mind always still, and steps always free amidst the ever-changing world. Goodbye, and see you in mindfulness.